into the voluntary sector, which started some time back we have before 1800, we have the Anglo-Vedic Society started by Raja Ram Mohan Roy, which his precursor was the Brahmo Samaj, and even the Atmiya Sabha was also established in the eastern part. And even Muslims set up the Faradi Society by Haji Shariatullah in 1818 and continued to do charitable works across the region. And if you go to Gujarat, the Swaminarayan sect was established in a village called Bokasan in Kheda district in 1844. The Swaminarayan sect has spread from humble beginnings in Kheda district to all over the world. And today we have their temples in the US, temples in the UK, and this is manifested across the world as one of the leading, I would say, Hindu missions which are going across the world. And so this has been some of the areas. And if you look at it, Devband, there was the Darul Uloom, which was set up in 1866. And the Devband has been misread by a lot of people. And some of them have accused them of being spawning terrorism, etc. So, but if you look at Devband, they have been trying to teach Islam in better ways. And the Devband is one of the leading educator of the Quran and its interpretation in many ways. And there is Persian being taught there, there is Urdu being taught there, Arabic is being taught there. Many religions are, many languages are spoken, many languages the teaching is carried out, and it is one of the leading colleges in India for Islamic teachings, etc. So this was set up in 1866, and then the Arya Samaj has been a big social movement within the Hindus. So, and they set up also the Dayanand Arya Samaj Society, which is the precursor for even the Lajpat Bhavan, which is in Delhi. These have all been created, and some of these societies were supported by Lala Lajpat Rai, who I think was one of the leading philanthropists in that time. He actually owned the Punjab National Bank, and when they shifted from Lahore to Delhi, he brought all his philanthropic work from there and established the Servants of People Society in Delhi, which is now in Lajpat Bhavan. And the whole of Lajpat Nagar is named after him because that is what he had created. And in the East, again, the Ramakrishna Mission and its successor, the Vivekananda Mission Society, all have been doing very good work in many parts of the country. And there's also another society which is called the Radha Swami Society, which is commonly known as the Bias Satsang. And that had actually split into two societies. One is the Agra group, which is called the Dayal Bagh group, and the other one is the Bias Satsang group, which is close to Amritsar. And this society also continues to do very good work, and people donate to the Radha Swami Satsang in great amounts of money, and these have been also getting a lot of charitable donations across the country. So this is something which happened. Now when it came down to the corporates, of course, they started doing work in education. And if you look at Jamshedji Tata from the Parsi community, he started various charitable work. And of course, Jamshedpur is a big example of his creation. And his sons, Sir Ratan Tata and Dorabji Tata, they also established trusts which have been doing a great amount of work. And there is an expression about Dorabji Tata, who owned the Hope Diamond. And when he sold the Hope Diamond for several million, he put it into the trust, the Sir Dorabji Tata Trust. And from this trust money, three major institutions in the country were established. The first was the Indian Institute of Science in Bangalore, which was then called the Tata Institute of Sciences. And the second was the Tata Institute of Fundamental Research. And the third was the Tata Institute of Social Sciences. So One Hope Diamond funded these three institutes, and these three are examples of philanthropy done by the Tatas, which have established fine institutions. And the education was a big preference amongst the business group. And in Calcutta, the Marwadis also started doing a lot of philanthropy work. And Birlas, of course, set up the Birla Institute of Technology and Science, Pilani, and other institutes in Ranchi, the Birla Institute of Technology in Ranchi, and other established technological institutions. And the Nethias, the Podars, the Hazarikas, Harlalkas, everybody set up such charities. And in Bombay, there are examples of both Walchand Hirachand and Jamnalal Bajaj, who established foundations to promote philanthropy. And in Ahmedabad, the Lalbais and Ambalal Sarabhai were leading philanthropists. I have a very good example to talk about the Lalbais. Many of you may not know that the Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad, was a gift of the Lalbais, was a philanthropic gift. It started that Nehru wanted to establish the Indian Institute of Management in Delhi. But Lalbai and his people wanted to bring the Indian Institute of Management to Ahmedabad. So what he did was he put up about 50 lakhs of rupees into a foundation to set up Indian Institute of Management. And he got other merchants in Ahmedabad, including the Sarabhais and other groups, to get into this, and they pulled up a lot of money. Then Lalbai, being a visionary, sent Vikram Sarabhai to Delhi to talk to Jawaharlal Nehru. And Nehru said, if you give free land in Ahmedabad, then we will set up Indian Institute of Management in Ahmedabad. And soon the merchants had actually got free land for the institute in Ahmedabad, in Vastrapur, and that is how the IIM came into. So the Indian Institute of Management, the first institute, was a philanthropic gift by the Lalbais and the other Sarabhais, etc., to India, and that is how it was created. So these were established by philanthropic gifts of business. And when it came to Gandhiji, Gandhiji was another great fundraiser and established a lot of corporate philanthropy, and Jamnalal Bajaj used to support him. Many other industrialists, including the Birlas, used to support him. And if you go to the walls of the old Birla house, which is now called the Gandhi Smriti, some of you may recall that Mahatma Gandhi was assassinated in this same premises. On the walls of the Birla house, the principle of trusteeship is inscribed on the walls. It said that you are only the trustees of wealth, you are not the owners of wealth. So you will have to put it for good causes. And he talked about the principle of trusteeship in the magazine Harijan and wrote a lot about corporate philanthropy and what businesses should do. And he writes in one of the magazines of the Harijan magazine, supposing India becomes a free country tomorrow, all the capitalists will have an opportunity to become statutory trustees. But such a statute will not be imposed from above, it will have to come from within. So actually business people will have to think about this from within and not think about other causes and try to do good for the country. And post-independence, of course, the Parsis also supported. I mentioned to you about the three institutes which Dorabji Tata set up. The Marwadis and the Gujaratis set up education trusts. I've already spoken to you about the Lalbais and IIM Ahmedabad. And down south, the Chettiars, which was a business community also established by Raja Annamalai Chettiar and Ramaswamy Chettiar, they established the Annamalai University. And so he established the Sanskrit college, a Tamil college, and a music college. and subsequently an agricultural college. And these all became what is now known as the Annamalai University in a place called Chidambaram in South India. And down and coming up to Delhi, both Lala Shriram, Hansraj, Lala Lajpat Rai all set up various institutions in Delhi. Of course, some of you know about the Lady Shriram College and the Shriram College of Commerce and various institutions set up by Lala Shriram. Hansraj College was also set up by a businessman, and so on. There have been many examples of such philanthropy, and this has been corporate philanthropy at its best. And Gandhiji used to get all his money from Jamnalal Bajaj and other industrialists for the Congress movement. And the whole of Sevagram Ashram, the land belonged to Jamnalal Bajaj and it was donated as to the ashram. And that is where Gandhiji spent a bulk of his life there. And he also, Gandhiji started something called Harijan Sevak Sangh for Dalits and Hind Kusht Nivaran Sangh for leprosy patients. And these were all supported by the business houses which were supporting Mahatma Gandhi. And subsequently, the Acharya Vinoba Bhave started the Bhudan movement somewhere in the early 60s, starting the principle of Bhudan. And Bhudan is also another form of philanthropy, which is the donation of land. So he started from Ponar Ashram and then started walking across India. And wherever people, landlords could donate land, they were donating such land. And some of the institutions like Asifa, Pradhan, and Dan Foundation came out of this kind of Bhudan movement. And so this has been the examples of voluntary actions set up due to philanthropy which started. And so if you look at the
everyone, that we will record this, just not for anything else.